So a big concern these days, obviously, is climate change.
Mm-hmm.
What's your take on climate change? I know it's a loaded question.
Well, yeah, exactly. I think that the most important thing to understand about climate change is that there are most scientists agree that climate change is occurring, but it is being exacerbated, or it's being sped up, or affected at least by human behavior. And there's no real debate, at least, that climate change is actually occurring.
Mm-hmm.
It's really a matter of debate with some small parts of the scientific community as to whether or not humans are at cause.
Right.
Okay. So the most important thing to understand is if we are at cause, as a scientist, the first thing you have to ask yourself, how might we be at cause?
Mm-hmm.
So a critical thinker doesn't just say, yes and no, and we go, okay, fine. So the question is, are we at cause? And now let's take a look and actually investigate. So how might we be at cause? Okay. So air pollution. We
Mm-hmm.
know that we produce a certain amount of air pollution because we know that our factories that produce our hard goods, our animal production, we can measure the amount of gas and pollution that enters the atmosphere. We can measure that by basic science. You take the number of cows that exist on the planet right now,
Mm-hmm.
and you obviously you just measure the amount of methane that a cow would release over its lifetime,
Mm-hmm.
its lifespan, and then you do the math, and you start to that's simple. You just start to find that the numbers are very simple to get to, and again, you've got to factor in certain things that may change the data here and there. Understanding that if certain cows live in, say, certain parts of the world or a certain climate, and that climate could be in effect, allows certain interaction with, particles. I mean, again, being that this is, of course, not our field of study, but understanding how science works, you would have to start to analyze the data by understanding that just because you say 1 million cows, when they fart, they put this much,
Right.
methane in the air, you might figure out that, well, if 500,000 of those cows live in a colder climate, it doesn't behave the same way.
Okay.
I'm not saying it doesn't. This is what I'm saying is, as a scientist, you're obligated to make sure that this is precise.
Okay. Yeah.
So I think our scientists are doing a pretty darn good job of getting to the closest numbers by also, minimizing error, by factoring in certain things that may adjust the numbers.
Okay.
Then you take, like I said, production. You take automobile and transportation sectors, and you do the same thing. And you say, okay, this is how much air pollution that a jet creates. This is how many jets fly every day.
Mm-hmm.
And and you start. In all honesty, I think you can hear that you could start to get to some pretty decent numbers.
Right.
And let's just say that you got to a number that was incredibly high, and you say, okay, well, given the fact that there are anomalies, there are things that may that may not be absolutely true under every circumstance,
Mm-hmm.
then you reduce that number. So that number's really up here. So you reduce that number by a certain percentage to arrive at an agreeable number. It's still too high.
Mm-hmm. You're right.
It's still incredibly high.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm trying to say for us when we're trying to interpret this data, is that the amount of air pollution that we're producing and again, even if you reduce it, it's still incredibly high.
Right.
And it's still arguably a major contributor to the degradation of the air quality. And I don't know how you can really debate that point, because right now we're in the middle of this COVID-19 pandemic, and the air quality is an example over China and other places where they have notoriously bad air quality is completely shifted and changed. And it's factual. It's not I heard. It's like, no, we've measured and there is evidence. So we know how much, pollution we create by creating products and by moving those products and people around the globe. So are we contributing to climate change? It's very likely, and it's very. And again, one would say, is it conclusive? Is it causal, or is it coincidental? And that's the debate, because it's like, well, the climate changes, and we can look back and carbon date things and look at things, and we can see that the climate has been different at different times, and that is true. And so the question then becomes, are we actually contributing to this current change in the climate?
Right.
And the science, strongly suggests we are. And can we reverse it at this point? Most of the scientists say we can, but that we probably won't. But we can. So it's not a pessimistic outlook, it's just a realistic outlook with certain pessimism. The realism is, it looks like we could make a difference.
Yeah.
But if you sort of go by the history of human behavior and behavior pattern, it doesn't look like you can really change course on a ship that has 9 million people on it very quickly. I know you can. I don't think we will.
Right.
Which means that, you still have to make a decision whether you're going to behave from your personal ethics, or you're going to just simply say, well, since that guy over there litters, I'm going to litter too. Since that guy over there, doesn't care about, the products that he or she buys, I'm just going to do the same thing and buy disposable shit products as well. And see, that attitude, is really, it's really just, it is as it is. It's just an attitude. I'm not even going to say it's wrong or right, because again, we don't work within the realm of wrong and right. We work within the realm of what is necessary and unnecessary, or sense and nonsense. And in a way, that's just that type of thinking is nonsense. It does not add up. And when you use logic and reason, it does not add up well, given that most people don't want to die. So given that most people don't want to die, but they're doing something collectively that is contributing to their early demise, there's an irony present there. And also, this a blind spot of massive, it's just ignorant.
Yeah.
It's just, I don't think I matter that much.
Right.
I don't see my personal impact. So I would say that it's crucial that everyone still does their part, regardless of whether we, at the end of the day, predict, whether we can predict or not what humans are going to do, why that would interfere with you being a great human or an extraordinary person. It shouldn't. You should keep doing what you're supposed to do, regardless of what other people are doing. And again, that's a personal ethic.
Yeah.
I say should, meaning that's the ethic that I try to impart to my students and to my people. And again, I can't force anyone to adopt that ethic, but that is my ethic.
Yeah.
It's due, the way I do anything is the way I do everything.
Right.
So I can't be over here being so precise and accurate and so careful and cautious and aware, and then over here be completely asleep and negligent and careless. I just can't do it.
Yeah.
So I'm obligated to behave in that way. So that's air, and then when you start thinking about the earth, you of course have to address food production, because of course that's probably the biggest factor. It's the biggest contributing factor to the depletion of our soil, the quality of our soil.
Yeah.
And we are just slowly and steadily eroding that quality, because nutrients have to be replaced in soil for the soil to put the nutrients into the plants that then become the food.
Right.
And when we're not doing that, we're really and the way that they're replacing nutrients, quote unquote, is artificial fertilizers.
Yeah.
Replenishing. But at the end of the day, that's not the same richness as you would get from as you could imagine, the slow and steady year after year disintegration of topsoil and forage as it becomes richer in all these minerals and vitamins that basically become available,
right,
and get expressed through the foliage and the plant life. But that's basically, I think, the greatest concern for the earth, the soil, for the most part. Again, there are other concerns, but I think the biggest concern is food production for humans.
Yeah.
Air, its transportation and food production and manufacturing products. And then when you get into water, you have one of the greatest, scams on the planet, which is bottled water. Most water systems in the world, first world specifically. I don't want to speak to, Kenya. I don't have experience with that particular region. I've seen and I've studied and I've sort of investigated, and you can see that water is a big issue for those guys. Clean water is a big issue. But first world countries, Austria, Germany, the United States, we have incredibly clean water. And the very rare instances in which we don't, like Flint, Michigan, where they didn't replace the pipes that transported the water from the water plant to the citizens, where they just basically over the course of time let them degrade beyond what was safe, and that they began to leak, I believe it was lead, into the water, and then this was of course poisoning the citizens. This is just negligence. This is not the water plant. The water plant was doing its job fine, but the delivery system had become, mismanaged and unkept. But if you are talking about tap water, when you take a sample of tap water and you actually test it, it's incredibly clean. What does it have or doesn't it have in it? These are all questions. And of course it has a certain amount of chlorine in it in order to kill certain things. So people are like, oh my God, what about the chlorine? I'm like, listen, there are citizens all over the world that would happily drink your tap water and be healthy and be completely, absolutely high functioning, healthy people that drink tap water. I think we have really sold this idea that tap water is dangerous and that it is not healthy. I think we've sold this very cleverly. The water companies have placed, they put it in a position in the marketplace that suggests that it's a superior product to tap water, when in fact most bottled water is tap water. Right? Very, very few companies are actually drawing water from true artisanal wells, true underwater wells. It's very few are drawing from those places. So if you really consider the fact that we're producing, I don't know how, this is probably in the billions. Millions would be probably not accurate, but you can look it up. I may be wrong. Billions, but at least millions and millions and millions of water bottles every day are being consumed. And where do they go? Because people think things go to recycling. It just goes back in the system. No, it does not. Most things don't. Most products never see recycling. They never see a second, repurposing of the materials. Most of the time, they get thrown away.
Right.
And the very small amount of disposable single-use plastic that does get recycled, it's so small that it makes no real impact on environmentally.
Right.
And then on top of that issue, you also have to understand that it doesn't have another lifespan. It can only be repurposed once.
Right.
So you don't get to repurpose it over and over and over. Most plastic is not capable of that kind of. What happens is it starts to degenerate from the process.
Yeah.
So recycling is not the answer. The answer is the discontinuation of plastic, single-use plastic,
Right.
as a way to consume products, to share products, to carry and travel with products. We've got to switch, to biodegradable materials, 100%.
Yeah.
Not plastic, but biodegradable materials. And we have to be okay if we're going to be in a disposable, if certain things about our society and our tools and our products are going to be inevitably disposable, like a water bottle. Okay, fine. It needs to be in a package that is biodegradable. Period. The end of story. There's no debate. And any country that allows any government that allows for these companies to continue to simply produce these unsustainable materials and let them fill landfills and become part of the destruction of the soil and the earth, because again, there's also that problem. It's just they are absolutely accountable.
Yeah.
For they're absolute participants in this really unforgivable behavior, because at the end of the day, it's so easy to solve it. It's like plastic straws. You just have to change them from plastic to paper, or from plastic to cornstarch or some type of biodegradable material. And again, all kinds of plant starches. You can make cups, anything. It's unforgivable that we will not use biodegradable materials for single-use items. It's absolutely unforgivable that we will not do that. And it's probably one of our greatest mistakes and blind spots. So plastic, we use it for so many things. Our computers, our electronics in general are made of plastic parts. So we're going to have to figure out a balance. And what that means is we've got to go back to the way we lived, say, in the 1940s and 50s, where if you made something, it was repairable.
Okay.
And that's another big difference. Now you make a fan, the fan is $20, which is incredibly cheap. You just buy that. Hey, here's $20. I get a fan. The fan lasts for, maybe a year. Maybe it lasts for 6 months. Maybe it lasts for 2 years. But then when it breaks, it's irreparable. You
Right.
cannot fix it. It must be thrown away. Now you've got this big plastic thing, but not just this big plastic thing. You've got millions of these big plastic things amongst the other billions of products. To wrap your head around how much plastic is thrown away in a year, you would probably, your jaw would drop. You would just be standing there in shock if you could actually stare at it. It's so disconnected from our everyday living. We don't have to actually look at a mountain of garbage. If you had to go stand at the foot of a mountain of plastic fans and garbage, you would be in shock. And you would say, oh my God, whose backyard is this? Well, I can tell you, it's Brazil's backyard, and it's China's backyard, and it's other countries that are taking waste from first world countries because they get paid for it. They're being dumping grounds for these other countries. So at the end of the day, it's an incredibly clever scheme. It's like, I'll take my garbage and I'll put it over there on your land. And then I don't have to worry, out of sight, out of mind. It's not a problem. I'll let you people deal with it. I'll let your people deal with the byproduct of this garbage, which is absolutely going to be soil and water contamination. Without a doubt.
Full circle.
Full circle. So we have to change the way that we use products and stop using and creating disposable products and start using and creating durable products that can be repaired. And that starts with you and what you purchase. You need to find out, can I repair this? Can this be repaired? Am I investing in something that can be repaired? Or is literally this going to be thrown away?
Right.
So you try to get a machine, because all these are machines. You try to get a machine that can be repaired. You try to research and find out what machines can be repaired. Can my computer be repaired? Or just throw it away and get another? You're like, no. Can it be repaired? And we have to start thinking like this, because whether we are at cause for climate change, we are certainly at cause for irresponsible consumption and irresponsible disposing of what we do create and consume. We are certainly at cause for being irresponsible. And we are certainly at cause for creating environmental impact. We are at cause, again, you cannot argue it, we are at cause for the degradation and the toxification of our water and our soil and our air. It's not about whether or not we're actually changing the climate. It's really about, are we contributing in some way to its degradation? Yes, we are, clearly. Nobody can debate that point. No one can say we're not contributing to air pollution. It's that's but can you say air pollution is contributing to climate change? That's where the argument gets contentious. But can you say we're not creating air pollution? Absolutely not. So why are we okay with creating air pollution? Why are we okay with creating products that are seeping into our groundwater and creating toxic, water that is ultimately a finite source. And it's a finite source because, not because it doesn't replenish itself, but because if you have more people consuming something than the time it takes to replenish it, it's finite. And a lot of people don't understand that. So, are we contributing to climate change? Again, I'm not here to argue that point. Most scientists agree we are. But forget that for a moment. Take it off the table. Are we making the earth, are we polluting the earth? Are we polluting the earth? Yes. No debate, no question. And we're polluting the earth because of our consumption. The way we consume is polluting the earth, and that we have to change.
Okay.